parents have to be honest with their children. That's what I'm saying. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You want the best for them. You want to lift them up, but understand that while they enjoy this, there could be another way to do it. So, for example, if you like basketball, maybe playing's not it. Maybe you should start watching the games and breaking it down. You see what
Mm.
I'm saying? Or maybe you should do the statistics. You see what I'm saying? Getting them to other things to help understand because clearly the love is basketball, and I don't really vouch for taking away someone's love, but
Yeah.
and just apply that to anywhere.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Dom.
There.
Welcome to the Players in Transition podcast. We got a special guest host today, bringing back
Yes.
episode 2,
Yes.
Donna.
What's going on, y'all? Happy to be here. Happy to get into transition.
Glad
Happy
to
to have
have
you
this
back.
young lady back. We loved her perspective, and we wanted her to come onto the show because we have another special young man himself, Anthony Odunsi. Wrote the book Wake Up Call, and it's definitely about the transition of athletes, but also the transition of people in life, period. I'm going to let him talk more about this book because I can't wait to read it. I'm definitely buying it tonight after doing my research on this young man. He's a phenomenal young man, and everybody else should go out and read it, man. Everybody go get the Wake Up Call. All right. But before we get into this podcast, we always start off with a quote, all right? And this quote resonates with the wake up call, right? And the quote is from Nelson Mandela, and it states, "The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, right? But he who conquers the fear," right? So that quote says, fear is there. That doesn't mean that he's a coward for having a fear, but what makes him brave is the fact that he feels the fear and conquers it. And that's what I feel like Anthony does. So Anthony, I really want you to unpack that for us.
Man, what an introduction, right? So I really appreciate you guys having me on the show, man. It means a lot to me. Dom and I don't know each other from anywhere, man. So that's the good thing about this is it brings athletes together. So I don't think you guys really know what you guys have done yet, but this is going to be huge. So I appreciate it. Just to talk about what you talked about as far as Nelson Mandela, man, the fear of writing the book. I mean, man, I could tell you how many nights I was typing, like asking my sister, should I, or ask my friends, man, should I? And they're like, yeah, keep going. But I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to put this out there? What information do I want to say? And all that, man. So there was a lot of discouraging times, but I'm telling you right now, the moment the feeling I'm getting invited to the show, the feeling I'm getting when I have my book launched, the feeling that I get at 3:00 in the morning when I have some athlete text me, hey man, I felt this. I just didn't want to talk to anybody about it. This is real. That's what makes it all worthwhile. So trust me, if you ever have a fear, just like I told you, prior, Dom, I think we all do have fears. And I mean, I think that a bunch of people have ideas, but uh, in order for it to become an invention, you got to go out and put it forth, you know what I mean? And otherwise it's just an idea that somebody's probably thinking about somewhere. So I had my invention and I, went on with it. And, I'm happy that I have the product right now. So this is for me, this is for my family, this is for my lineage. And I'm just, finally proud that, I can say I wrote it. I completed a task.
Dope. Let's get a transition, man. Real quick, just a quick little, snippet of it. Like, explain the wake up call. Like, why'd you choose to call it the wake up call?
So the wake up call is, when you write these books, man, there's a lot of different aspects that you're thinking about. Who's the target audience? Who are you talking to? What is this book going to be about? What are the demographics of it? And so I'm looking at, okay, I don't want to just target basketball because that pigeons me in a hole. I don't want to just talk about sports that pigeons me in a hole. I don't want to just be only Black people. Again, that pigeons me. I want to try to reach everybody that I can. And so I was like, okay, the wake up call. Man, we all gonna have a wake up call at some point in our life. Maybe you're working, and just like I talked about, maybe you're working that job and it's something you love to do, but it's not giving you what you need to support your family. I had a wake up call. It's time to do something else. For us athletes, man, some people get that call in 8th grade. You know, those of us that are on this, podcast, we've been lucky enough to extend that. You know what I mean? She got hers in her sophomore year in college or junior year. I got mine. There was 3 hours of sunlight when I was in Iceland. 3 hours of sunlight. There was 3 hours of sunlight. I mean, I was out there and I was like, and I was sleeping through the sunlight. You know what I mean? So I was like, man, this is so depressing. I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. There's some guys that go out there for a couple months and come straight back home. So that's kind of why I went with the wake up call, because it just kind of fits what I'm trying to talk about. It's that point in your life where, hey, I have to stop doing what I love to do and do what I have to do in order to, support my family. And the problem with this is, and then I tie it back to, African Americans, because again, when you look at the demographics that dominate sports, they're Black kids, right? And so I think some of us hold on longer than we need to, and that hurts us moving forward, because where's the longevity at in sports? Your one ankle sprain, your one knee tear, your career being over. So again, throughout the whole process, I have to keep talking to different athletes. Am I discouraging people? They're like, nah, man, you're just keeping people cognizant of the future. That's kind of what I did there.
Good, man. That's
I
good.
love it.
And I think that's really important, because I think a lot of people are going to watch the show. They may, I don't want to cast whatever someone thinks, but I think a lot of people look at this and they think that transition predominantly after college or pros, being that, most of the people, all of us on here went past high school. But some people don't understand that transition can be from high school to college. We all heard that person that was like, yeah, man, last year I could have walked on in such and such, but I chose not to play. It's like, Slim, if you could play, you'd be balling. Period. Whether you walked on, whether you got a scholarship, it doesn't matter. But like, they were dealing with their transition at the same time. Understand, they might have been the person or the lady wherever they were, but now it's like you got to reel that in. Your sport is over. So for them, they may have been identified as that athlete, and now in college they're just a nobody in the school of something like Ohio State. There's like 60,000 people. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, I could definitely say I transitioned, or even more to what you said, in the 8th grade. Like, some people just don't have it. Like, high school, you're just not going to be able to cut it. Like, I hate to say it, but like, it's just what it is. So I think that you made a very good point there, that like that transition can be at any time. And the sooner we can get people to understand and see and get that wake up call, I think the better a lot of people will be.
What is the reality of that happening too? And just like you said, Dom, you're like, hey, I was arrogant, I was young. What is the reality? Because now we're wiser, right? As you get older, you read books, you start to read articles about people who are successful, and you learn from them. But what is the reality from someone who is 18, has dominated his or her sport, and that has not really hit any adversity? What is the reality of them actually understanding what we're talking about?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. I'll just talk about the surface level stuff, right? Now I'm gonna go deeper. Internally, they'll understand it. Yeah. They'll act like they won't understand it in front of everybody else, because I heard what people were saying about, that transition and having a plan B, and it might not work. I heard it, but in my mind, I don't care. I'm going to make it regardless. No one going to tell me I'm not going to make it. I'm going to do everything. Nobody's going to outwork me either. So that my work ethic kind of gave me a little bit of arrogance as well. So it was like, I think they'll hear it, but later they'll receive it. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? They'll hear it. They'll listen to the podcast. Somebody might sit them down and make them listen. And they may listen just because of they know you, they're familiar with where you've been or where one of us has been, and they'll hear it, but it won't register until it happens to them. And then they're going to be the ones going back and sitting somebody else down and be like, yo, you need to listen. Right. It's a repeating cycle, you know what I'm saying? Because it's always like the old head comes back and say, I wish I would have done this, to the teenager, and then the teenager comes back and be the old head. I wish I would have done this.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yes.
Exactly. I think it might be, I think it's going to start earlier. I think it's us, you know what I'm saying? Dom, you got a daughter, you got one on the way. I don't know, do you have kids? You have kids, Anthony?
Oh, no.
Okay, Brianna, you have kids? I don't have any that I know of at the time. So I'm gonna go and say I don't have kids. But either way, I think it starts off at an early age, right? Like I feel like you have to bestow into your kids that like you might be good right now, but there's somebody that's better. And I think a lot
Facts.
of times parents like feed it. Like I'm not even gonna hold you. I honestly think I got the best parents ever. They both instilled me, but my mom's my number one fan. But there was some times where it's like, Mom, I'm not doing it this game. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
like in basketball, it's like, Mom, I ain't played 3 games straight. And we only had 3 games in one day, you know, the AAU circuit. It's like maybe this is not it for me. But it's like sometimes, you know, you might have to be the parents have to be honest with their children. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? You want the best for them, you want to lift them up, but understand that while they enjoy this, there could be another way to do it. So for example, you like basketball, maybe playing's not it. Maybe you should start watching the games and breaking it down. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe you should do the statistics. You see what I'm saying? Getting them to other things to help understand because clearly the love is basketball. And I don't really vouch for taking away someone's love, but
Yeah.
you know, and just apply that to anywhere.
I've definitely seen plenty of people who were great middle school, all of that, and got passed up through the rankings, got passed up, like, going into college. There's late bloomers as well, didn't even play basketball or pick up a basketball until 9th or 10th grade. And then boom, they're headed off to, some Big Ten school or, Pac-12 or wherever they're headed. Like, the journey is just so different for everybody. It's so, so different. And that's something that we have to kind of acknowledge along the way, for sure.
What inspired you and what got you over that hump of fear to write this book?
I think the biggest thing was selflessness, right? So the biggest thing for me was there's another kid somewhere, some city, some state that's going through the same thing that I went through, right? And I've learned from my mistakes over the years. How do I help that kid if I don't face my fears and write this book? If this book gets out and helps one person, then I did my job. So a little bit about me, and it's different from you guys, right? So I come from a Nigerian background. My mom does not know anything about sports. Nothing. So she went to school, went to college, came here when she was 16, worked at a couple fast food restaurants, went to college, but doesn't know anything about sports. So when I was getting recruited, she thought that was supposed to happen to everybody. I had like some Fred Hoiberg, he coached in the NBA, was coaching at Iowa State, Brad Stevens. I mean, these are billion-dollar guys. I mean, not billion-dollar, million-dollar guys flying in, coming to sit in my house and tell my mom, hey, we want to offer your son a scholarship. My mom's like, cool. Like, all right, this probably happens to everybody. But the reality is it doesn't. And so she never knew, but she let me handle all the situations on my own. So I was making a lot of mistakes because I was making decisions as a 16, 17-year-old kid,
Right.
So that's the difference where you guys might have had parents that were, athletes. And if they weren't athletes, they still were from the country. So they understood, hey, this is this school, this is what's good about this school. These are the pros and cons. My mom had no idea. She's not from here.
Right.
That's a big thing, is that I made a lot of decisions as a young kid.
It's funny that you say that. Your mom being oblivious to the recruiting process. My parents were the same way, and they're from here. Like,
Right.
we had no clue like what goes on with being or getting recruited or getting the attention. Being honest with you guys, I didn't know what GPA was when I graduated high school. I had no clue what it was. Somebody just randomly told me I was supposed to take the SATs. My dad kind of tried to help me out in that field, but I didn't know myself what a GPA was. So, it's people here that don't know either. So we hear about it on ESPN, but we don't know the process. And, with everything that goes on into getting college scholarships and going on and playing sports, everything, we want to bring that here and kind of, help people, because everybody can relate. They probably can tell a whole different story than you and me.
I will say this though, and this is just being candid, right? Like I went to a predominantly white high school, right? They knew. They knew. My mom busted her butt to try to do everything she could to put me in place. She literally, and this is no cap, shout out to Paula, literally sent a DVD out to every D1 and D1 AA football school in this country.
That's love.
That's love.
Yeah, like I will forever be indebted for that. And we literally drove, I don't even know how many schools. But like, oh, they know. I just think it's on. I think our community just needs to know a little more about it. And it's something that's almost like we don't talk about. We don't share those things. Once you went through your process, that was it. Your parents stopped talking about it. You know what I mean? And how many other parents, other kids that they know that weren't going through it at that time? Just a little different perspective. Just a little perspective.
True.
For sure.
How was your process, Brianna?
If my mom was on this episode with us, she would literally say she's still scarred from the recruiting process, because my mom doesn't have an athletic background at all. My dad is just like a serial hooper, like stays in the gym. He's in his 60s now and still plays basketball. Obviously, pandemic, hasn't been out there, been in the house, bored, whatever. But otherwise he'd be at the gym. And it was a first time. I was the first in my family to get an athletic scholarship. So obviously, like, my parents knew the academic side. They both went to college and everything, but it's a whole new ball game when you get to be recruited, and the exploitation piece of it all. I mean, we've all seen kind of the horror stories that happen in the recruiting process, how it all kind of pans out, what you promise a kid, what you don't, putting on a great show, going down for the weekend, doing the official visits, getting lit with the team, so on and so forth. If you're 16 or 17-year-old, you are essentially in heaven, right? I get free food. I get this dope hotel. I get to hang out with, people older than me. I get to go to college parties, let's be real, and have a great time. And then boom, you commit. And then all of a sudden, all of that kind of changes like that. And so it's definitely a reality check. My mom to this day will still say, I didn't even have any type of say in your decision. I knew I had a great visit. I knew the coaches were cool. I was like, all right, I'm going. I love the city that I was going to. I was like, I'm going. That was that. She still feels like I should have just exercised my options a little bit more, and maybe I should have, but the glitz and glam, I got caught up in the glitz and glam, y'all, for sure.
Right.
For sure. You when you're 16 and 17, you don't see the bigger picture of it all, for sure.
Yeah. In my book, I call it making a decision based on emotion. So I talk about that. And so it sounds like you and I are alike. It sounds like Dom and Edgar might have been in, hey, my parents are kind of involved in my situation. They're going to let me make the decision, but hey, we're involved. My mom was just like, I don't have to pay for anything. I love you. I'm happy. Just do whatever makes you happy. And so, yeah, I do talk about that in the book. Literally everything that you just talked about, I hit points of those. Hey, this is what happened when I went to this school. This is why I didn't go, because, I made a decision based on emotion, and I'm sure we've all done that at such a young age.
Definitely. Well, we talk about emotion, and we all made those decisions, right? But I think the best things come out of when we plan. And did a little bit of research on you, my guy. You looked up a little bit, and you got this master's in international business, and you play ball overseas. Now, I'm not gonna say anymore. I'm gonna let you speak the rest of this. But I just want to know, was that planned, or did that just kind of work out how it worked out?
So it's funny because, again, I talk about that in the book. I talk about I had a summer birthday, so I was born in July. So either you're older or you're younger.
Right.
So I was younger, and man, I used to just kind of do whatever. I mean, I'm like, look, I'm not serious about school, and I got held back very early. And I'm not gonna put, race into it, but my mom, again, her not being from here, she had a meeting. It was 4 white ladies, and they're like, hey, we think your son is like, incompetent of being with all the other kids. So I remember her crying. My mom's single. So I remember, when your mom's single, you kind of hold that like male, stature in the house, that male, that embodiment. So I'm like, okay, man, my mom's alone. She's crying. What happened? And she's like, man, I'm crying because of you. And they're saying that you're not, that my baby and my child is not, where everybody else should be. So I started taking, academics really serious. And I don't know how much you know about Nigerians, but that's all she cared about.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll fast forward a couple of years. I made really good grades. My first offer was at Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
And so my mom was just like, hey, academic. Hey, I don't care what you do. It's basketball stuff. That stuff's going to end anyway. Like, you know, just academics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what helped me, you know, build that mind like, hey, it really doesn't matter what you did your degree in as long as you can tell a story. When you get into a room and you get into an interview, what story can you tell? Hey, I got sociology because of this. Hey, I got psychology because of this. So I was like, hey, I'm probably going to be a pro. It's probably not going to be at the NBA. Probably going to go overseas. I need business in there broad enough. So let me do international business. So I knew moving forward that was the best, you know, situation for me. The last 2 jobs I've had nothing to do with that degree. So I'm just glad I have it, but you know, it hasn't really worked for me yet. You know, for credibility purpose, maybe. Hey, it's Master International Business. All right, you can do this job.
Yeah. Real quick, you just spoke upon having a degree and not using that degree, you know, in your field, you know, not having a job, you know, within your degree. A lot of us are like that. You know what I'm saying? I can count about 1 million people that go to college and get these degrees, graduate, and then they're doing something totally different than what they went to school for. So, you know, talk to us a little bit about that experience while you were in college, because with you, you know, going from school to school, did your not your mindset, but did your major ever change? Like, did your thought process ever change?
So, you know, again, it's all going to be a cultural like education from a Nigerian perspective. When you're Nigerian, you know, my mom is like, you know, doctor, lawyer, you know, all that stuff. That's kind of what she talks about, right? All they want from a young age. Even my sister's my mom would force my sister to be a nurse. And one day my mom fell and scraped up her knee. So my mom was bleeding. My sister fainted. My mom was like, oh man, like I have my daughter doing something she's not even able to do. You know what I mean? So my sister ended up going on to be an electrical engineer. She done use that degree. So when I first started out at University of Utah, I was business administration. I went to Tyler Junior College. I did general studies. Went to Albany. I did economics. Came back to HBU and did a business, and then got a master's in international business. Man, everywhere I went, I tried to stay as close to the business field as possible. I knew it was broad enough to, hey, I can do a bunch of different things. I can go in accounting, finance. But again, this wasn't a discussion I ever had with my mom. She didn't have those opportunities. So it was just kind of stuff that I researched on my own, you know. And if I had, and you could talk about, you know, again, the demographics, if I had somebody or a lineage that had done this, you know, year after year after year, they could have been like, hey, whenever you go to this school, get this degree, or whenever you go to this school, get this degree. But I just kind of did, hey, whatever I could, you know, do at that time.
Yeah. That's crazy. I know some people, it's like, you know, for me, I had no clue what I wanted to do. You know, I know people talked about being in business. You know, once I got to college, I started to understand, like, you're going to need a job. So, you know, what's going to pay? So, you know, a lot of my teammates were, you know, becoming accountants. So I started in accounting. And it's like, the same for me, bro. I can't see myself being a desk guy. You know what I'm saying? Even though right now I'm working at a school, I'm also working on my businesses. You know, I'm constantly working on my business because I'm not a desk guy. Even when I work at the school, you know, I work with, you know, community relations. I'm walking around the school and I'm talking and, you know, being the coach, you know what I'm saying? So I know that in particular, like going through school, I had no clue. So when kids ask, like, how did you know what you want to do? I let them know the truth. Like, you know, it's okay to not know, but just get there and you'll figure it out.
That's real.
Yeah, it is. Chess, not checkers, man. Like, it's a saying that's said all the time, but it's like, and we all athletes, so we know we prepared for that team. It's like, we're gonna run through them. We go down 14-0. It's like, what next? Like, you have to fight back. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna do certain plays. You're gonna run to your right a certain amount of times, and then one time when it's good, you're gonna go to the left and take them to the hole. Now it's a tie game. You see what I'm saying? So it's like chestnut checkers. You got to think about your next move before, and I think we've all done that at some point in our walk, in our transition.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I think you raised up a lot of really interesting points because, you know, with my background in research, one of the things that's naturally kind of out there, but people don't necessarily talk about it as much, is academic clustering or major clustering. It's when you get guided into a major as an athlete that your, you know, academic advisor kind of nudges you in because, you know, that will maintain your eligibility, that will, you know, allow you to kind of move through the system, you know, unscathed and be able to, you know, continue to play and obviously generate wins for the athletic department. And, you know, it's real. I had no clue what I wanted to major in. I majored in psychology because my coach was like, or honestly, my academic advisor told me, "Hey, yeah, you may lose some credits. Also, you know, how are you going to go to these labs?" I wanted to do exercise science. They said that's just, you know, not even in the cards. So I tried to do something sciencey with psychology, but I hated it. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with it. I had no clue how to use it. And it's sad because that's the case for a lot of student athletes that are out there, you know, trying to figure out what you like and try what you like, but at the same time, trying to navigate this situation. And so many people are in your ear telling you what to do and how to major just so you can stay eligible. And, you know, it's just sad when you think about it because it's your life. It's your life. And these decisions that you make impact how you are going to transition out of the game because eventually it will be over. And if you're left with, you know, I don't know, a random degree, you know, some people they do individual studies, whatever, you can make up your degree at this point. It's like, how are you going to use that? How are you going to utilize it? You know, it's important. It's definitely important to be able to highlight these things.
Yeah. Cool, man. We definitely, you know, we're talking about majors and the confusion. I know, Brianna, I want you to really, you know, take control of this one right here.
Yeah, for sure.
When kids get that confusion, they often think about leaving the school or, you know what I'm saying, transferring. That question comes up a lot with me. So, Anthony, how many schools you go to, bro?
And look, I respect your parents so much for being like, hey, stick it out. You may not see it now, you may not see it tomorrow. It may not even be in you, it may be in your kids, man. But what they instilled, man, it's huge because my biggest problem is I lack stability in my life. And I talk about it in the book, man. I say there was a bunch of different, this is me just being transparent. There's a bunch of different AAU teams that transferred over into trying to go to a bunch of different high schools, a bunch of different colleges, a bunch of different women. Man, that stuff goes to your kids. You know what I mean? That stuff is generational. And man, just being able to face adversity. And now I'm starting to, you know, feel it now. I'm like, hey, you know, you got a problem. Turn around next day, go out there with a fresh mind, you know. But I think the problem now with kids is like, man, kids don't know how to face adversity and they just jump. They just jump. And that's why you look at the transfer list, man, it gets bigger and bigger every year.
The transfer portal.
Yeah, it's bad.
They leveled up with that portal. I'm telling you.
And I think they opened it up to where I think I think moving forward, you don't have to sit out. I mean, it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a mess, you know. So
I just learned about that, man. It's like
it's crazy.
You can say I want to transfer, but you don't leave the school yet. You just say
you throw your name in the hat.
So let me put my name.
And you don't have to leave. You can stay.
That's awesome.
You can totally stay, and they can't penalize you for it. It's so lovely because it's public now.
Right.
I love that part.
When you all transferred, did they know y'all about the transfer? Because they didn't know I was about to transfer today to release me. Just being 1,000. Well, they may have known. I didn't know they knew, but I don't think they knew.
When I was transferring, the way that it went down was so crazy. Like my coach recruited 3 or 4 players outside of the scholarship allowance. So on the women's basketball side, you get 15 scholarships. She had a transfer come in halfway through the year who wasn't on scholarship yet, but intended her to be. She had 3 newcomers coming in as freshmen. So we doing the math. I'm like, yo, the math isn't mathing. Like, what's going on? Like, you know, who's leaving? How are they going to leave? What's going on? And what ended up happening was she calls me to her office, makes me go through 2 weeks of postseason, which was just hell on earth. We're just running our lives away. Calls me into her office. We finally, sit down and have the conversation or whatever. And she literally tells me in my face, and she's just like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can work out, do everything all summer long, come back, be better, et cetera, but you will never play for me. And I was just like, literally, like, mic drop. I'm just sitting there like, I'm 19. I'm just like, damn, like that just happened. She basically made me feel like I was the dirt that she walked on every day. So it was crazy. That's kind of how I ended up transferring. That's how I found out I was transferring. But I mean, I had a feeling, you have a feeling that you want to do more, you want to be more, you want to do all of that stuff. So that's why my second round of when I was looking at schools, when I was getting recruited, when I was getting these offers from, state schools and private schools or whatever, I was like, yo, I want to actually do something with my life, get the internship, have time for the crucial conversations with connections, be able to, set myself up better for my future at a nationally recognized school. I mean, it hits different when you're at a state school. It's like, woo, party, sports, everything. But in terms of the network and what I wanted going forward and what I wanted for my grades and how I wanted to present myself, that's why I kind of went the path that I did. But yeah, that's how my coach came at me, 19 years old, just threw me under the bus like that. It was crazy. It was really wild just how it all went down. But I'm happy that players get to hop into the portal and that it's more public, because I've heard plenty of stories, you all have probably heard these too, where coaches cut off schools from they cut off players from going to certain schools in different states or whatever. I've had some teammates that were trying to transfer and go back home, and they cut off schools in their home state. Like, what? Like, why would you do that? Just being petty. And I like that the rules are opening up. Yes, they will be exploited in some ways, but if you're leaving an unhealthy situation, then it's great. And I don't think you should be penalized for it, because a coach can up and leave and go take a bigger, higher paying job, and they don't have to sit out for a year, So it kind of works on both sides. It's a total experience and it's yours. So why not? It's not personal, it's business, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had a coach tell me I wasn't going to play, but it was where I transferred to. He told me straight up, on God. He told me it was your Sacred Heart game your freshman year, Dom. I went in his office. Long story short, he told me you may never play it down for me, but you're gonna graduate. Just another perspective. I graduated, got my master's, went on to law school.
He said the same thing to me, honestly.
Okay, fair enough.
His thing is, I don't want you to just think about playing. I want you to think about the experience of being in New York City and at Wagner College. You know what I'm saying? You may never play, but I guarantee you will graduate. And with that he didn't know how to express exactly what he was trying to say.
I was like, I'm sitting here like, dang, get out the gate, recruited you there and just said, nah, you're not going to play for me.
But I respected it because I took that message. That I was going to graduate. You know what I mean? And and everybody graduates coming through him. I'll tell you that much right now. Wagner College, everybody graduates.
So Ant, man, I really want you to dive in. I don't know if it's too much, because we don't want to give away the book too much.
Right.
But kind of talk to that kid who's going to ask you questions about transferring. You know what I'm saying? We touched on it a little bit, but I really want you to kind of, give us something to help that guy that's going to think about transferring, because you went to 4 different schools, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, man, everything you guys say is crazy that it's actually in this book. I'm telling you again, I mean, trust me, you don't write books to get rich. Okay, I probably put more money in this than I might get back, right? That's the reality of it, right? But again, especially stuff that you were saying, Brianna, I talk about in this book. Now, Dom, Edgar, you guys have a good coach. Not many coaches out here like, y'all not gonna play, y'all gonna graduate. Man, I have schools, I have schools that I went to where I never even saw a classroom on my visit. Hey, we don't care about that.
Wow.
We care about you trying to, excel you. We try to excel this program. That's all we care about.
Show you the facilities.
Absolutely. So in this book, man, I talk about exactly what Brianna talked about. I talk about, I remember being at, Utah when my coach called, a couple of guys in there like, hey, because they can't actually say, hey, you can't go here anymore. They'll just try to subconsciously tell you, hey, you're never going to come here. Egotistically, as a kid and as a player, somebody that works on their craft every day, you're telling me I'm not good enough to be here? Well, then I don't need to stay here.
Right.
You know what I mean, but if you're smart, you fight it out, keep grinding, face the adversity, and stay there. So with me, man, the whole transferring process, again, I want kids to learn from my mistakes. Personally, if I didn't transfer as much, we may be talking about $100,000 more playing basketball. A lot of it's luck and timing. And as we all know, it's perception. And the perception is you come from one of the bigger schools, you're better, flat out. You're playing at the Big 12 versus, Houston Baptist, where people don't even know it's a Division I school. Hey, we want a guy from there, especially overseas teams. So for me, man, every time I transferred, I got more knowledge. I became more humble. So if anybody ever asked me, do you regret transferring that much? No, because if I didn't transfer, I wouldn't have been able to write the book. So again, this is God blessing me with the gift to give back. And I'm trying to educate some of these kids, man, but I understand what it's like to be 18 years old. So the first time, like I said, with Iowa State, I was signed to Iowa State. I was an early signee. What's happened? After the season, I found out that Royce White, Corey Lucius, and Chris Allen, Corey Lucius and Chris Allen went to Michigan State. Royce White went to Minnesota, played in the NBA for a little bit. They all signed. So in my head, I'm like, he got 3 transfers that they only got 1 year left. He didn't expect me to play. I'm out. You know what I mean, man? Y'all ain't see my name all over this place. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I was just so arrogant. I got out of my letter of intent. First day I didn't hear. This is what I did, right? And I've always kind of been this thinker. I got another school, and I'm giving a little bit away, but I got another school to say, hey, we'll take you. So that way I'm not getting out not knowing anything, I got to get out with some type of scholarship offer. So they're like, hey, we're going to give you a scholarship. So I got out. Man, within 2 days, I had maybe 15 to 16 D1s in our gym, flooded. Penn State, Hawaii, all coming to, to the house. They're all coming to our gym. And again, my ego grew again, like, man, I got this. You know what I mean? Like, Iowa State messed up. Iowa State's not losing sleep. That's a Big 12 school. They can go find a kid anywhere. And I think that's the message that we get across to these kids is like, man, we think that when we're that elite athlete, like they're lucky to have us. Now we're lucky to have them. That's an opportunity. And so I ended up going to Utah. And just like you said, Edgar, man, they knew I was transferring out of Utah within 2 months. I was there for 2 months and I was like, man, y'all not using me correctly. I started my first game, led the team in scoring. The second game after that, I didn't really play. I was like, man, I'm not going to stay. I'm saying that in the locker room. I'm pouting. And again, basketball is different, man. We're prima donnas. I mean, if you really look at like some of the guys on the NBA bench or some of the guys in high school, they're throwing towels. Can't do that in football. Somebody's probably going to lay you out. One of the other players, because it's huge on camaraderie. Basketball is a prima donna sport, man. So, ended up transferring from utah, and that's where the humbling began. Man, I went from eating filet mignon steaks. I felt like I was eating prison food in JUCO. You know? That stuff will humble you very quickly. You know, staying in dorms where everybody has their own shower, to sharing a bathroom and a shower with 3 other dudes, you know, and it gets, I mean, man, I go into some deep stuff, man. I was shocked. I was like, man, y'all are living like this? They don't know any better. That's all they've ever seen. Right. Their opportunity, right? I came from the Pac-12, I've seen life up here, right? And man, it was just such a transformational, time of my life, man. I became so humble. I had really hit rock bottom. Now, this is going to tap into a whole nother aspect of it, but I deleted all forms of social media.
Mm.
I stopped answering phone calls because I thought that the people who were rooting me on when I was going to Iowa State,
Mm.
I'm not cool anymore. I'm the guy that went to JUCO. People stopped
Mm.
talking to me. People stopped texting me. I mean, I think that we've all been in those situations where,
Mm.
hey, we are, that top player in, whatever city we're from now, are people going to start looking at me different? The reality of it is no, but, we think that way as athletes.
Mhm. I want to say something because I don't want everybody listening to this to think all hoopers are prima donnas.
Right.
It may just be on the male side because I've seen how y'all act over there, but on the women's side, it's a little different because we know that as women, we already get enough flack because y'all emotional, y'all doing this, y'all doing that. So it's very cut and dry. Like there is no let me act out because we know one, opportunities are slim, okay? And two, we already know how we're getting perceived. And at third layer, as Black women, we already know how we're getting perceived, okay? So it's very different. It also kind of runs in tandem. Obviously, there's some similarities in the experience, especially I would say as these athletes that are coming behind us now with the social media growth, with NIL, with everything that's kind of going on around them. Obviously, that's going to come with, a different vibe within itself. I mean, I'm seeing kids out here with 500,000 followers, million followers or whatever. And I'm like, y'all are in college and it's, women's basketball players, it's volleyball players. It's a whole different list, a whole different generation. So I can't speak for them, but for the most part, the general consensus is that we're more on the chill side, but the guys definitely have a bigger ego. If I say so myself.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff, man. Before we end the show, I really want you to tap into, your book to provide, the readers with, what we're going to get when we open up this book. I know we spoke about a lot throughout the podcast, but just briefly engage us with why we should read the Wake Up Call.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, again, the Wake Up Call is a transparent story of my life, right? And I think at times writing this, I was like, man, who am I? But I think the gift is that I'm somebody who is, I'm in a situation that you can actually obtain being where I'm at. I think oftentimes we try to, seek being like the Jeff Bezos or these are one in a million, right? Most people won't even reach where we've played, but it's obtainable. So it's a transparent story of my life and how I feel like I can help the next guy coming forward. And I start from, transferring how to educate guys into transferring schools. Then I go into how to pick an agent, how to face adversity overseas, and all that. And then the biggest thing that I want to talk about is that transition afterwards. And I think that's the scariest moment in guys' life is like, hey, how do you, make that decision to move forward? What I mean? I think that's what a lot of guys, are scared to make, but I'm trying to, hey, don't be scared. I'm going to help you get through this. This is what I did. This is how I made that decision.
Dope. Dope. Well, Anthony, man, at this time in the show, we call it Extra Point, man, where we allow the guest to kind of own the show, because this is for all the players. So we're giving you the chance and the opportunity to ask us questions or touch upon anything that we didn't speak on throughout the show. So take the floor, host.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I love, that aspect of it because I want to make sure that I'm thinking on the same level as everybody else. And I want to get all you guys' opinion. If somebody asked, would you do things differently? How would you handle that question?
Aspect. From what point, I guess.
So, with the things like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have went to Wagner. Maybe I should. Would you have done things differently? With your college decision, with getting you where you are now? Are you comfortable? Are you happy? No, I would change things. Yes, I would change things. Like I said, me, I'm fine. I'm at peace. There's some guys who are going to wake up at 35 and be like, man, I made a mistake. And that's going to haunt them for the rest of their life. So I really want to know from y'all's perspective, you know, hey, are you happy with where you are right now? What would you change if you did?
Yes. I mean, I'll go first. I feel like the cliche answer will be to, nah, I'm good, you know, because I wouldn't be where I'm at. Honestly, in my opinion, I would, knowing what I know now, I would do things a lot different because I would educate myself more on the process. You know, I went through high school playing average, you know what I'm saying? And not being elite because I didn't want people to judge me the wrong way. I didn't want to lose friends. I tried to play unselfish ball and stay here, and it kind of cost me. You know, instead of running for 2,000 yards, you know, I let two other running backs on my team get the ball, and then I settled for 1,500. You know what I mean? So I would be a little bit more selfish because it would allow for us to win a championship. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. If I would have just stopped being like, I told you I'm a better running back than you. See what happened when you don't give me the ball, coach. I would have been more of a leader and like, nah, it's crunch time. I'm not doing that. Give me the ball, coach. That essentially what cost me to not get a scholarship coming out of high school. So I definitely would have did things a lot different. Next.
I agree. I can go next. I think obviously like I wouldn't be where I'm at now, right? I wouldn't have gone to Penn, wouldn't have done cool research, wouldn't have done X, Y, and Z, right? But at the same time, if I was 17 and getting recruited by all these schools again, I would totally look at lower divisions. And a lot of people, well, you know, I think when you're getting recruited, the pride in you is like, I ain't going to no D2, D3, whatever. Like the pride in me at 17 was crazy. It was crazy. My ego was just like ridiculous. But at the same time, I have friends that have gone D2 and D3, so they had a fantastic experience, you know, were able to play, were able to do their thing. I honestly envy my friends that went D3 because they're like, yo, they figure out a way to like, you know, find some money for you and you get to have summer vacation and you get to just, you know, be a student. I would have loved that because you go through so much and then you look up and it's like, boom, 4 years just passed you by. You're like, yo, what just happened to me? What friends did I make outside of basketball? What did I do? What was my significance? You know, I was mainly, you know, 75% of the time I was in sweats. Like, you know, you start thinking about these things logistically. So I would have definitely looked at schools in lower divisions and just be like, yo, NYU, give me some money. University of Chicago, throw me some cash. Like just phenomenal schools, phenomenal institutions that have buku money that would have easily been able to like, you know, slide me some cash for academics or whatever and play and be able to kind of make my life outside of basketball sooner, I guess. So been able to jump on that transition aspect sooner.
So
I think for me, and this is gonna sound a little weird, so bear with me. I would lower my ego and lower my humility at the same time. Because I feel like when I was in my process, and Don could speak to this, I don't feel like I gave it my all because I was almost too humble. There were times where I'd rather my opponent shine instead of me shine. You see what I'm saying? I also wasn't, my ego was so high that I just thought I was naturally better than everybody because I was bigger and smarter when that really wasn't the case. And I had to work a little more for it. So I think I would have did that. And also too, I would have understood, much like Brianna, that maybe going a little lower might have been better for me. And thus why I had to also lower my ego because people told me that before. And it was that thing like, no, man, I'm not listening to you. The coach that's coached me for the last 4 years is telling me, I think you should go D3. And you know what I'm saying? But it's like, man, you don't know anything. You sent people D1, but I'm not listening to you. 4 years later, I'm like, right. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then in college, I had a coach telling me, fight the state. People telling me they want, you know what I'm saying? Like, play, like you can do this. Just do something and you could be something with one more year. And at that point, I was too humble. And I was like, nah, that's it. I'll let someone else get a scholarship. It's someone else's opportunity. I got the degree. I'm gone. That's when I should have been like, you know what? Other people have seen that I could do this with only 1 year eligibility left. There should be something there. So that's what I would change. I would lower my ego and my humility at the same time.
So, well, Ant, man, really appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
Can't wait to read the wake up call. I'm definitely going to get that book, man. If you're watching this, please, 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 man, tap in and really get his perspective, because I think the book is going to be even better than what he's talking about on the podcast, because he only gave us a little bit. He didn't give us the whole thing. So Anthony, man, tell us where we can find you, where we can find your material and everything like that, bro.
Yeah, man. So obviously this is the wake up call, man. Up there that says Amazon bestseller, man. We thank God. So you can get this at the wake up call, wakeupcall.com, or you can go to Amazon and type in Anthony Odunsi and it'll pop up. We got the books on there, obviously. On my site, we're gonna start getting shirts up there as well.
Okay.
With the Nigerian national team, man, that's one of better pictures I've had, playing. I really appreciate it if everybody goes support. I think that what's been happening now is like, hey, my friends and family have supported me, and I appreciate that. And I think that what's starting to trickle out to some other names that I'm starting to see come up on my site that I've never seen before is the information starting to get out.
Yeah.
Hey, my son is getting recruited. I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't. Let me go tap into this book. I'm looking for some type of outlet to help me. Hey, my son's on this level. What does he do? Hey, my son's, I don't even talk to my son. Is he enjoying the game? How can I help? I dive in all of that in the book, man. And I can't give away too much. I just want to give away a snippet so, people go out there and get it and they can find out more. But at the very back, of course, I told you this is an educational piece. At the very back, I have bullet points. Bullet points where everything that we talked about today, how to make decisions, how to pick an agent again, how to, pick different schools, you got all these schools doing the same thing. There's no bad visit. We talked about that. There's no bad visit. Everybody's trying to do the same thing, get you to come to their school. How can you differentiate? And one thing I do say, and I'll say it, on here, when you're picking a college, this is one of the bullet points, you're making a 40-year decision and not a 4-year decision. Like a lot of us probably made 4-year decisions. Hey, where can I go to get me to the NFL? Or where can I go that's, the most fun? Which one has the best parties? Well, you got to remember, you got those 40 years after that. So we got to make 40-year decisions, not 4-year decisions. So that's stuff like that I talk about in the book, man. I hope you guys go out there and get it. I hope you guys enjoy. I put myself in a vulnerable position. I talk about some deep times, some dark times. So, that's just me, trying to get that information out there and help.
Cool.
I love it.
Cool, man. Thank you. Thanks a lot, bro. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Definitely gonna go pick up that book. That's another episode of Players in Transition. I'm Dom.
I'm Big A.
Peace.